Hi, students. I'm glad you came to school today. On this video, today is Friday, April 24th, and I'm going to read you a book. Today's read aloud is going to be about a book called Dreamers. Can you see it? It won a special award. Here's the back side of it. It's written by Yuyi Morales. There's the name right there, Yuyi Morales. Okay. I'm opening it up and there's a little thing on the side here. See? It says, a New York Times bestseller. What if you dreamed of a new life and it came to you? What if that new life led you to a new country where no one spoke your language, where you felt alone and ignored? What if you had to make that new place your home? What if you found that home in a world of books? And what if it were all true? That's what it says. All right, let's move on. All right, here's the title page. All right, it says Dreamers by Yuyi Morales. And that's it. It doesn't say who drew the pictures. I haven't seen that. It says here who published the book, but not who drew the pictures. Oh, look at the picture this way. Okay. I'm going to take this cover off, but it's the same thing underneath, see? All right, let's get started. All right, here's the next page I'm going to read. It says, I dreamed of you, then you appeared. Together we became. And then it says, amor, love, amor. And then it says, resplendent life, you and I. Resplendent means a good life, a beautiful life. And here are the illustrations. Okay, next page. It says, oh, I better show it to you first. All right, it says here, one day we bundled gifts in our backpacks and crossed a bridge outstretched like the universe. And this says, adios corazón. So here's the backpack that they packed. Looks like they brought their guitar with them, maybe their dog. And then here, they're crossing over a bridge, and it says, adios corazón. In Spanish, that means goodbye, my heart. All right, moving on. It says here, and when we made it to the other side, thirsty, in awe, unable to go back, we became immigrants. And there she is crossing the bridge into the big city. Do you see it? Those look like bats. See? Those are bats. Down by the border, there's a lot of bats. All right, next page. It says here, migrantes, you and I, the sky and the land welcomed us in words unlike those of our ancestors. There you are. All right, next one. Ooh, a lot going on here. It says, hello, ma'am. And the girl says, ay. There were so many things we didn't know, unable to understand and afraid to speak. We made lots of mistakes. I, I, I means, oh no. Well, here's one mistake they made. She decided to wash the baby in a fountain. And the policeman said, hey, you guys can't swim in there. Or, I don't know. Maybe they just got in there to cool off. And then on this other page, oh, there's a bunch of maps. Wow, it looks like they're in the San Francisco Bay Area. She's living by San Francisco in Northern California. See, here's a map. Here's a map. And it says San Francisco on it. So apparently she couldn't read the map. She was being confused about it. Maps can be confusing. All right, next page. It says here, you and I became caminantes. Thousands and thousands of steps we took around this land until we found. So caminar means to walk. So if you're a caminantes, that means you're a walker. And she's walking all over, I guess, the country, trying to find her place to settle down. And then, she found a library. Can you see the library? All right. It says here, a place we had never seen before. Suspicious. Improbable. That would be the biblioteca. That's the Spanish word for library. All right, moving on. More library. Hard to hold this book still. It says, unbelievable, surprising. So there she is in the library. She sees some other guy, other people using the library. Uh-oh, now her imagination is starting to run wild. All right, it says unimaginable. And she's reading these books and it's taking her to places she never imagined before. Underwater. It's like all kinds of stuff she's learning about. All right, it says, where we didn't need to speak, we only needed to trust, and we did. So it looks like she may have met a friend or something. All right, moving on. Next page. It says here, books became our language, books became our home, books became our lives. We learned to read. You guys should all be reading Every day. You have to practice. All right, next page. All right, it says here to speak, to write, and to make our voices heard. All right, next page. It says here, someday we will become something we haven't even yet imagined, which is what I want you to do when you go to college. It says, but right now, so the kid's holding a rocket ship, there's a bat in the picture, and it looks like they're imagining a wonderful future ahead because of reading. Next page. All right, it says, we are stories, we are two languages, we are lucha, we are resilience, we are hope, we are dreamers, sonadores of the world. We are love, amor, love. Okay, moving on. So here's a story about Yuyi. Yuyi is the person who wrote the book. So I'm going to read all this stuff to you. It's called My Story. I think I may have to put my glasses on to read this. Oh, it says, all of us have stories. Each of them is different. This story began in 1994 when I crossed a bridge with my 2-month-old son, Kelly, from Ciudad Juarez, Mexico, to El Paso, Texas. And though I did not know it at the time, to a new life in a strange and unfamiliar place, the United States of America. Once here, I was surprised by the quietness of the streets, houses neatly lined up along the roads, and later by the cold winds of San Francisco Bay in summer. I had come so that my son could meet his great grandfather, Ernie, who was very ill and not expected to live much longer, and to marry Kelly's father, a U.S. citizen. I wanted to return to Mexico soon afterward, but was shocked to learn that because of rules uh, and my new status as a permanent resident, I was now expected to remain in the United States. I had become an immigrant, but could I possibly call this new place my home? Like most immigrants, I missed things that felt familiar: my family, the food, my friends, my job as a swimming coach, and my ability to communicate, to understand and to be understood. In this new place where I did not speak the language, it was as if no one seemed to notice I existed, as if my words and actions didn't count. In those first days, I constantly wondered if I would ever find a place where I felt valued. Then one day, Kelly's grandmother brought us to a building that would change our lives forever. We discovered a public library, and it was spectacular. I had never been in a place where you could just take books from the shelves without asking, and without being scolded for taking them. And there were picture books, something I had not encountered before. I could not believe how beautiful and sturdy they were. And then when I opened them, I was amazed at the power of their illustrations. Even though I could understand very few of the words, I realized that I could understand the story through the images, a realization that would come to inspire me later on. I began bringing Kelly there almost every day, the baby. And although at first it was difficult for a little baby to stay longer than a few minutes, they cry a lot, eventually we were able to spend entire afternoons looking at picture books, often only leaving when we were told the library was closing. We were at home. During those years, as Kelly got older, librarians at the Western Addition branch, Richmond branch, Presidio branch, Mission branch, and the San Francisco Main Library on Larkin Street, among many others, guided Kelly and me to find books we could love, though in an English that I struggled to understand. She didn't speak a lot of good English. One day, when Kelly was not yet 2 years old, Nancy Jackson, the children's librarian at the Western Additions branch, handed him his own library card. I was in awe. We could now take home a stroller brimming with books. So now they can start checking out books and taking them home. One of the most important things I learned at the library is that through books we can find our path and our purpose. I also learned that I love to tell stories and that I could tell them through books. I studied the books I admired so much and became determined to make my own. My first efforts were very simple and very crude, made by hand and bound with ribbons and filled with my own stories and drawings. I was so proud of those books. Kelly was not a dreamer in the way the word is used today to refer to young undocumented immigrants who were brought to the United States as children and who have lived and gone to school here and know no other country than this one as their own. Kelly and I were dreamers in the sense that all immigrants, regardless of our status, are dreamers. We are dreamers. We enter a new country carried by hopes and dreams and carrying our own special gifts to build a better future. Dreamers and dreamers of the world, migrantes sonadores. Now I have told you my story. What's yours, Yuyi? See, she signed her name right here, Yuyi. So I just read you all that. And the point of this is that you can create yourself by reading. And you should be reading because it can take you someplace you never imagined. It makes you wiser when you read a lot. And so she wrote this book and drew the pictures. There's no illustrator. Yuyi Morales, that's her. She wrote all this and drew all the pictures. So she's pretty talented, I'd say. And she came from humble beginnings in Juarez, Mexico. Anyway, continuing on, now she goes and she writes this. And she says, books that inspired me and still do. So here she read one's called Been to Yesterday's Poems of Life, A Boy in a Jaguar, Emmeline at the Circus. Just all these books that she likes. And then she talks about how I made the book over here. I'm going to read it to you. It says, How I Made This Book. Water. I painted with acrylics and drew on paper with ink and brushes and a nib pen. That once belonged to Maurice Sendak. Wow, he's the guy who wrote a famous book, Where the Wild Things Go, I think it's called. Given to me by Lynn Caponera. To give the book life, I photographed and scanned many things, including the floor of my studio, the comal where I grill my quesadillas, my childhood drawings kept by my mother, a chair, a brick from my house, old walls from the streets of Malinalco, my hometown of Esalpa, and my house, a metal sheet, traditional Mexican fabrics, crepe, craft, and amate papers, leaves and plants from my garden, an old woven blouse, a hand-painted pants I made for my son Kelly, old wood, water in a bucket, jute twine, traditional wool skirt from Chiapas, Kelly's childhood drawings, my first handmade book, embroidery, and more. It says, dreamers of all kinds, especially those who have brought their abundant gifts to a new land, you are the inspiration for our book. Okay. And then that's it. There's no more. Okay. But I did notice something I thought you might find interesting. And then this video is going to end. Here's a picture of her. That's a real life picture of Yuri Morales. Now I'm going to read to you what it says. It says, born and raised in Mexico, Yuri Morales immigrated to the United States with her son, Kelly, in 1994. At the time, she barely spoke any English. Since then, she has written and or illustrated many distinctive books for children, including 5 that won the prestigious Pura Belpre Award. And here are the names of the 5 books she's written that won the Pura Belpe Award. You say, what's that, Mr. V? See that award sticker right there? It says Pura Belpre Award. So it's obviously award for being children's books. All right, I got to get this done. Just a minute. A Trickster's Tale and Counting Book, she wrote. Los Gatos, Black on Halloween. Just in Case, a Trickster's Tale and Spanish Alphabet Book. Niño Wrestles the World. And Viva Frida, which also received a Caldecott honor. So, this lady came from humble beginnings and made something of herself. She makes a living making these things. So if she can do it, she couldn't even speak English when she first got here. If she can do it, you can do it. So that is the end. Thank you for listening. I'll see you at the next video or meeting. Have a great weekend. Bye.